And record. All right, it's the Newport This Week video podcast series. Every week we go deep inside an issue that's either included in this week's edition of the newspaper or just in general stuff that matters to residents of Aquidneck Island, visitors to Aquidneck Island, so on and so forth. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Today we welcome Councilor Dave Carlin for, hey, look, these are the kinds of discussions. They're not necessarily the most exciting thing in the world, but they're pretty critical, and that's anything really to do with budgetary efforts. There's an article in Newport this week that is detailing $1 million for 8 new positions. Let's start there, Counselor, if you would, and just give us the breakdown on where this stands right now on this new budget proposal.
Well, thanks, Bill, and good to be with you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you to Newport this week for hosting this series. Funny thing you mentioned, getting in the weeds and looking at some of the wonkiness that is policy or public policy, and I guess that's what the budget is all about. I was out last week, and Friday afternoon, somebody said, "What are you doing this weekend? Anything fun?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to read the city budget again."
Exactly.
The newest version. They said, "Well, that's not fun." Well, it might not be fun to you, but to some of us, it's become not fun necessarily, but it's definitely something that we are paying very, very close attention to, as you said. And let me bring you back to the original vote on the budget, Bill, which was on May 28th. May 28th. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, which was May 14th. May 14th, the city administration proposed a budget that they brought before the council, which several of us believed was an inappropriate budget. So what we did was we tabled that budget proposal before us, meaning we took it off the table for discussion. We essentially temporarily killed it. To table something, using wonk again, using policy words, to table something means to stop discussion. And that's what we did on the 14th of May with the budget proposal that had many, many significant concerns in it. Fast forward to the 11th of June, which was our last city council meeting. The budget came before us again. This time, or last time on June 11th, it came before us with a number of changes that council members had asked for, that I had asked for as one of those council members, and that the public, the taxpayers, the ones who pay the bills, had asked for. We also had a number of developments between May 14th and June 11th that have taken place at the State House and that are continuing to take place that will affect Newport in a dramatic way, budgetary-wise. So the document that you saw before us originally on the 14th was nothing. Well, it was like the document you saw on the 11th, but with a lot of fluid scenarios having taken place between the 14th and the 11th. So we voted on the 11th for the first reading of the budget. The budget requires 2 public readings, 2 public hearings, 2 public votes, possibly 3 if we need to. But during the budget discussion, we brought up a number of the concerns I mentioned earlier. So the budget was dramatically changed from May 14th. The positions that you mentioned, and sorry for that rather long introduction to where we are, but the positions you mentioned were simply unacceptable to many members of the council, 4 of us, and to the taxpayers, again, who pay the bill. $1.1 million in proposed new positions for eight new positions, possibly 9, but $1.1 million in new spending, not only in new spending, but by way of a maximum increase in our residents' taxes. So in other words, we're creating these positions, $1.1 million in new positions, very handsomely paid positions, I might add, anything from $173,000 down to about $90,000, when the median single income in Newport is just a little over $41,000. And the median family income or household income is a little over 83,000. So we're looking at a scenario where the least paying of these new positions is more than what the median income for a household in Newport is. And again, it rises all the way up to $173,000 a year in these new positions, all 8 of them totaling $1.1 million, which was unacceptable to us. And it was unacceptable to pay for it by way of a maximum tax increase on our residents. So to your question, with my long explanation, we voted to eliminate those positions from the budget. We voted to essentially reduce the tax rate in half from the maximum 4% down to 2%. We are seeking new ways to reduce the tax rate even further. We also reduced the appropriation to the school department in half not because we do not support the schools, the students, the teachers, staff, and all who work so very hard to try to make our school system work, but because we asked for, the council and others asked for, elimination of unnecessary school administrative positions before we start cutting teachers. And they didn't bring that to us. They kept administrative positions on, and they eliminated teaching positions. Unacceptable to me, and I believe unacceptable to other counselors as well, which is why we said we will look at giving you that money back, but you need to bring these teachers back, and you need to start making the changes in your administrative ranks the way we did. So long budget process, tough budget process, difficult decisions, but in the end, myself and a majority of the members of the city council have the residents of Newport and their pocketbooks in mind, Bill.
I mean, the expression of how the sausage is made is definitely applicable when you take a look at budgets, and it's clearly, whether you're talking about the state level. I mean, we just went through it on a federal level. We're in it still on a state level. It's not pretty, but it's the backbone of government, and budgets are reflections of priorities, plain and simple. Where does this stand now? And kind of looking to the future, the fiscal picture of Newport, are you comfortable that by and large, with what you've brought to the table here, you and your fellow counselors, opposed to these new positions and opposed to that, which you described with school department personnel, is Newport in a good position with these changes that you've proposed or have enacted?
Bill, first of all, a great description. A budget is a reflection of your priorities. It should be a reflection of our citizens' priorities, the taxpayers' priorities. And I think the budget that we voted on June 11th is better than the original budget, much better than the original budget, but it is certainly not a perfect document. There's no such thing as a perfect budget, but this budget is much better than where we were, but needs more work. We have to see what happens at the State House with regard to the passage by the House of Representatives and then subsequently by the State Senate Finance Committee and the full State Senate of the state budget at about $14.5 billion. It dwarfs our $122 million budget, but nonetheless, there are many components in the state budget that will help Newport or could help Newport, which we have been advocating for to put us in an even better position fiscally. So it is a TBD, as they say, to be determined between now and the next June 25th council meeting. But I'm keeping a very, very close eye on developments at the State House with regard to their budget, that is the state budget, and how it affects Newport. We're in a better position, but there's more work to be done.
I think that sentiment shared across many municipalities right now, all eyes on that state budget in a year where American Rescue Plan Act dollars, goodbye, that's not available. So it is a pain, as Speaker Shikarchi has said a couple of times, it's a painful process. It's when you have effective municipal government that is able to understand the give and take there, it makes it a lot easier for the taxpayer to follow along and understand what's happening. Councilor Carlin, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Bill.